Hello, everyone. I am here with one of my very favorite speakers. I'm serious, of all time, Dr. Joe Vitale. And Joe's been a great friend of mine for many, many years. And I am incredibly honored to have him on my YouTube channel. This is so great, Joe. And mainly because my intentions here are to really help people understand and grow spiritually, but most of all, how to live their lives and to live life coming from a place of joy, wealth, and happiness. And sincerely, I don't think there's anybody that can give us a better message than you. You've lived it, you know it. But let me tell people a little bit about you before we begin, because your accolades are completely off the charts, but so well deserved, I must say. Besides me reading for you for many years prior to when you became big with The Secret, you were one of the main people in the book, The Secret, with Rhonda Byrne, and you were in her movie. And not to mention, since then, you've been in 20 movies. You have authored over 80 books. This is incredible. And 15 music albums. I mean, does it get any better than this? And you've been speaking in countries around the world. And as you said so poignantly and hilariously, countries you've never heard of when you were growing up. So,
Right.
but it doesn't surprise me at all, because your speaking ability is phenomenal, because it inspires us. It inspires us for change. And I know the reason why it is so powerful is because it comes from your heart. You know how to talk from the heart, from the soul, and this is your gift. And so let me open it up for you to tell us everything that you want to tell us to help us change and inspire our lives.
So you want me to say everything, reveal everything, share everything. And what do I have, 60 seconds? I've written 80 books. How am I supposed to do this?
I know, impossible. But
Right.
I know you can streamline it and get to the core and the essence of what we need to know.
You know, I love that polite push, because what you're inviting me to do is really get to the core of the matter. It's like, Joe, we don't have a whole lot of time here. People are busy. We're busy. So just give us the essence. Give us the gist of it. So I love that. So when I think about it, you know, what I really believe at this point is that there is an inner spiritual guidance system inside each one of us. Most of us don't know it. Most of us never heard of it. Most of us don't know how to tune into it. And most of us wouldn't believe it if somebody just explained it to them. Now, your audience is different, because the people that watch you, that follow you, that are gathered here today, they're more spiritually minded. But I think this is a crucial, fundamental key to beginning to live that happy, joyous, abundant spiritual life, is to realize there's a guidance system in our heart, not up here in our head, but more in our chest, in our heart, somewhere in the midsection. And some of the current science is pointing out we have a second brain, and it seems to be in the stomach, in the midsection, in the hara, in that whole kind of area that's lower in the body rather than in the mind and in the head. So when we tune into that, and we start to hear its nudges, because it doesn't usually yell at us, it whispers at us. And so when we hear the nudges, we hear the whispers, and we act on them, then life becomes easier, happier, healthier, more joyous, more profitable, more productive. Most of the ride through life is streamlined when we listen to that inner guidance system. We have our own GPS. So I think tuning into that is the fundamental everything that we want to begin with, because most of our life journey is awakening to the fact that we've been living by our head, by our ego, by our animal self, by our, I don't know, the core unconscious that drives most of us. But at some point, we need to awaken to the spiritual driver that's inside of us. We have choice. That's what free will is about. We can listen to the mind, the unconscious, or we can listen to the inner guidance system. We have a choice there. That's free will. We can say, no, I don't want to follow it. Or yes, I do want to follow it. My discovery is that when I follow the inner guidance system, the spiritual directive, life is so much easier.
Yeah.
That's where you get to kind of row your boat gently down the stream and just kind of enjoy the ride. You still participate, but everything is far easier, in my opinion. So is
Right.
that pretty good for an opening to
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah, and I think probably the reason why a lot of people don't follow that inner guidance system is because they're trying to live their lives for other people, what
Hmm.
their parents want them to do, what their spouses want them to do. And I think once we really recognize and realize what we are meant to do, coming from, who we really are, when we follow that path, that is when we truly, everything opens up. And like you say, where it's easier, we're flowing down the stream with the current instead of against the current. Is that
Yeah,
what you mean?
yeah, that's a great expansion of it. I think most of us at some point have to leave family and friends. And I don't mean in terms of a separation or a divorce or any sort of cathartic final decision, but I mean mentally and maybe even spiritually, we have to do it. I've been doing a lot of reading and writing, and I was in a movie about Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And one of the things he discovered is that most people fail because they listen to their family and friends. Their
Right.
family and friends keep them in the programming that they were born with. We're
Yes.
all coming into this planet with some sort of programming. We're not completely blank slates. We got some sort of programming there, but then we get more from the family. Our parents do it. They do it innocently, but they're telling us how the world works.
Mhm.
The culture we're in, the government, the media, the religion, the school system, all of it programs us. And when we're kids, we're unconscious, we're innocent, we're vulnerable, we're almost blank slates, and we download all this information. So as we grow up, we are trying to please everybody else because they're the ones who programmed us. We're not really clear what our inner direction is, or our purpose, or our role, or our mission. And that comes when we start to tune into the inner guidance system. This is why I think meditation, quiet time, getting into what's called the silence is the number one thing we need to do these days. Anybody that's followed me or heard me speak or read my books know that almost every night, if I'm in Texas, where I'm currently living, I'm in a hot tub. And when I'm in that hot tub, I'm looking at the stars. And one of the things I'm saying is, thank you. Thank you for my life. Thank you for everything. Thank you for getting me here now. But the other thing that's going on is there's no laptop, there's no iPhone, there's no distractions. It's me and nature. And I am silent to receive.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need to do. We need to find time to unplug so we can get away from all that program, all that people pleasing, and get into the spiritual directive and find out, what is it trying to do for us? What is it trying to guide us into next? How is it trying to help us? And then we can hear it because we've gone into the silence.
Wow. I mean, something that simple is such great advice because
Right.
people just don't even take the time to cut off in order to listen to that inner guidance system. And, the truth, what do they say? The answers are always within.
Right,
So you
right. Well, we live in an age that is far more distracting than at any other time in history because of all the technology we have and all the gadgets we have and all the iPhone this and iPad this and computer this and internet this and who knows, there's so many apps coming out and social media distractions coming out that it's a marvel that anybody can actually get through their day without running into walls or driving into each other because they're not present. The
Mhm.
distractions are insane. And yet at the same time, that's what we got to do, is break free from that in order to find our inner guidance system. If we don't, we are going to be pulled. We're going to react. We are going to have all of our buttons pushed. We're going to push them in other people. They're going to push them in us because we're living unconsciously. We
Mhm.
have to tune it all out, at least some part of the day. the gratitude hour, the hot tub hour, whatever it is, we've got to have that for our own sanity, let alone for our own reconnection to the great something.
Okay, so it sounds like your life has been just this progress of still learning and growing and expanding and becoming aware. I think, you know, what I'm hearing from you is there's this awareness, this new level of consciousness that keeps developing as you go within. So is there any techniques that you do that helps you in any way?
That's a great question, and I also appreciate the insight because you've known me for decades. You've known me for a very long time, and the truth of the matter is, I was homeless at one point. I was in poverty for 10 years. Went through the dark night of the soul, and even when you think you are arrived, and the movie The Secret comes out, and there's a new level of fame for me, and I'm on Larry King, and I go into other movies, and all these wonderful things happen. You still have things to go through, like the death of my mother, the death of my father. I go through a 3-year divorce that I thought would be over like that, and it wasn't. It was torturous. And then, of course, there's a pandemic
Oh,
that takes away my biggest income and my travels and all of that kind of stuff. So as a human being on planet Earth in 3D reality, we still have things to go through. But what helps us get through them and even grow from them and get stronger from them is that spiritual awareness. Now, when I was homeless and when I was in poverty, I don't believe the spiritual awareness was there. I believe I was unconsciously driven by the programming that I absorbed. I had set up a big goal for myself. I did want to be a published author, but I unconsciously was creating this horrible outer world around me with the homelessness and poverty and all that struggle, because I thought that was part of what was needed to be a success. That's programming. That's not needed, but I believed it was needed. So my journey has been one of slowly deprogramming, clearing away all of those paradigms and those limitations so I can keep expanding. And as I've expanded, spirituality can come through because I'm opening the channels more and I'm listening to it more and I'm acting on it more, so that there is a constant evolutionary expansion into greater and greater experience and success and more. Where I'm at today, I'm on year 70, if you can believe this, 70 years old. I look back and it's like, I never dreamed that I would have such incredible wealth, success, romance, health, fame, fortune. I mean, 80 books. Even when I was wanting to be a writer, I never thought I'd write 80 books. I thought one or two, 80. And I never thought I'd be a musician. 15 albums. Some of my band is called the Band of Legends. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. My drummer, I mean, I can go on with all of this, Joni, because my own mind is blown by what I've accomplished so far. And I'm not done. I'm still growing. I'm still receiving spiritual insight from the great something. So you asked for techniques. One of them is the awareness that there is something else that'll guide you. That awareness alone will open you to receive it. You can call it God, the great something, the divine, the cosmos, the universe, your guardian angels, all whatever feels right to you, whatever fits into a person's belief system. There is something. And when you believe that, you can start to open yourself to hear it. The second thing is you have to do what I was mentioning earlier. You have to make time to receive. Get in the hot tub, but leave your phone outside of it, or go for a walk, get into nature, do something that disconnects you from technology, but connects you to spirituality. The third thing is, and this is very important because even if people do the first two, they don't always do the third. The third is take action. I'm a big take action guy because I hear all the time people say, I got an idea for this, or I got an idea for that. First of all, the ideas are coming from the great something. They're coming as a gift to you.
yeah.
And then they don't do anything with them. And they're surprised why they stay stuck. They're surprised when somebody else gets the idea too, and they act on it. So they profit, they get whatever the reward is. But you, who got the idea first, didn't act on it, and you don't get any of the benefits from it. You have to take action. I could not have written so many books if I didn't sit down in the old days in front of a typewriter, or these days in front of the computer, and actually type. I could not have made music had I not said, I'm going into the studio and I'm going to record. I've been to countries I didn't know existed, as I mentioned to you, when I would have failed a geography test because I didn't know that these countries were out there. And I went to countries we've warred with. And there I am on stages over there. I didn't see any of this. But when the opportunities come, that is something I have to take action on. So the third thing I tell people is you have to take action. Right or wrong, there's no guarantees that whatever the action is, it's got to pay off in a way you imagine it, but it will take you down the road to places you can't imagine. And so you have to take action here. So those are the three things I would say right off the top of my head.
That's very interesting that you say you have to take action, because what I consider taking action is having courage, because it takes courage to take action. And so many people tell me, well, I'll tell them in a reading, I'll say, oh, you should be a writer, you should write. And they say, well, I don't feel like it. I don't have the inspiration. And I said, I don't care. Do it anyway.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is actually golden advice, Joni, that people don't realize it, because the greatest authors that are out there, and you can mention, if you go into fiction and mention Stephen King. Stephen King gets up every day, inspiration or not, and he writes. I think the only days he takes off are his birthday and Christmas. He writes every day. Jack London, who deeply influenced me when I was a struggling writer, and he wrote Call of the Wild and Martin Eden. I mean, he was globally famous, American classic of literature. And he got up every day and he wrote 2,000 words. He said he did not wait for inspiration. He went after it with a club. Exactly. I don't think you need to go after it for a club, but you do need to start. I was asked, I was at a chiropractor a week or so ago, and he said, you know, as I'm a writer, and he says, do you ever get writer's block? And I said, no. And they said, how do you not get it? And I said, because I know if I don't have anything to say, I sit in front of my computer and I start typing. At first, there'll be a little bit of gibberish and gobbledygook, and it won't make any sense, but it'll evolve into something because I've allowed myself to get the garbage out, and then the inspiration comes.
That's exactly it.
Exactly. You cannot wait for inspiration. You will not get anything done if that's all you wait for.
Exactly. Oh my God, I tell that to people all the time, because you know, I have to write a newsletter every week and every month. I don't feel like writing it half the time, I got to be honest. But because I have a deadline, I have to do it. And I get down, I start writing, even in the times I don't know what I'm going to write about. And at first it's gibberish, like you said. And then all of a sudden something starts kicking. And it's, I don't know, it's that divine spirit or something just starts kicking in and the writing starts pouring out. So I do the
same thing with my videos. I'm very active on Instagram, for example, and I post an original video at least once a day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And there are times when I go, just like sitting down at the typewriter, I don't know what to say. But I get the camera, I set it here, because I use my iPhone to film everything. Talk about making it easy these days. And I turn it on and I start talking. More often than not, whatever I blab there is useful, and that's what gets posted. Exactly. Here's the secret everybody needs to be aware of, that when you sit down to write or when you sit down to make a video, if it actually turns out to be crapola, you can just delete it.
That's true.
You just delete it. You go on to the next one. It ends up being practice or a rehearsal for what you actually do. Nothing is actually lost. Nothing is lost.
I agree with you totally. So we just have to kick in. And like you say, it's action, doing it. And not, you know, not sitting there, well, maybe I don't feel like it. Maybe I will. We have to kick in with action. And actually in astrology, this is planet Mars. Mars is the planet of action, and it's the planet of courage. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to start something, because in our mind we're saying, what if I'm a failure? What if it doesn't work? But we have to just do it anyway. It's like, hey, what's that saying with Nike? Just do it. That is so true.
Well, let's look at that for a second, because when I was broke, unknown, living in a tiny little room in Houston, Texas, and I could not afford it. I scrambled every month to come up with $200 for this little room. And I had a shaky wooden desk, and I had I think it was a $10 portable typewriter with a black ribbon on it. And I'd walk over it to start writing, and I'd sit there going, oh God, I'm going to write something and nobody's going to care it. Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's going to publish it. And I'm just going to die in this dirt room, unknown and unpublished. That's one way of looking at it. I had seen a little clipping in a writer's magazine. I think it was Writer's Digest, and it had 2 lines. And the very first line said that. It's like, what if what I'm about to write is crap? What if it's never published? I'm never noticed. I'm never get paid as a writer. The second line said, what if what I'm about to write is the turning point? What if what I'm about to write will get me published, will get my name known, will lead to me being a full-time published author? I cut that little clipping out and I taped it on my desk. So when I walked over and looked at my cheap typewriter at my cheap desk, I saw the 2 quotes, and they represented my choice. I can listen to the negative side that said, well, you're about to write crap. Why waste your time? Or I can look at the positive side and say, you're about to write something that could be great. And I looked at it every time, and I sat down and wrote. Ultimately, I was published repeatedly, leading to today.
Yeah, I get it. And I love that. So anything else? Once how do we stay focused with this positive trend of thought? How do we keep ourselves from the negative thinking that tries to influence us so often?
Yeah, that's another $1 million question. So there's a couple things I've learned along the way. The very first one for me, and this is the easiest, is to surround yourself with the materials that make you think positive. Now, when you see the background here in my office, those are books. Those are real books. It's not a fake green screen. It's not some sort of animated graphic. Those are my books and have been hand selected. And there's a whole row of books behind the Be Happy sign that changed my life. Every one of those titles, there's like 20 of them there. So whenever I was feeling like I need to bring myself up, I always turned to books. That was the easiest thing. And back then, when I didn't have money for anything, the library. Thank God for the library. All the books are free. Go there and just soak them up. So I would say, first of all, watch what you're feeding your mind. Watch what you're reading. Watch what you're watching, movies, TV, watch the inspiring stuff. Pay attention to what you're listening to. It's one reason I became a musician. I called myself a self-help singer-songwriter because I wanted to create songs that had more of a positive lyrics. And I always pointed out, if you can't get what you want, you can blame the Rolling Stones, because they sang it back in the 1960s. You can't always get what you want. And we got that in our head now. We can't always get what we want. It's a negative affirmation. It's not actually true. It's a belief. So pay attention to what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're reading. And the bigger thing, and this is even more powerful, and I didn't have it when I was broke, homeless, and struggling, but I can have it now. And that is, surround yourself with positive people. Get into a mastermind, which is what Napoleon Hill called a group of 5, 6 to 8 people that get together and they support each other in their dreams and their hopes and their desires. They can pull resources, but they can also emotionally support each other in going for what they wanted to achieve in their lives. Now, of course, you can do this on Facebook. You can create your own group. And now, as the pandemic has eased away and people are going out a little bit more, you can actually join a group or create a group and bring people into it. One of my many books is called Meet and Grow Rich, which I wrote with Bill Hibler. It's a way, it teaches you how to put together your own mastermind. I think being in a group of people who are going for the gold will help you maintain your enthusiasm. So I think that's really important. So everything from what you're feeding your mind, your body, your soul, your ears, all of that, to who are you hanging around with? What kind of people are supporting you?
That is beautifully said. And if you don't mind, I have to make a little plug for for something here because, well, one thing, I created a group called Shooting Stars, which you were so kind to speak to my group, which
Uh-huh.
is a mastermind of positive thinking and uplifting our consciousness. But coming up here really soon, I invited Joe to be the opening act at my conference, which is coming up here June 2nd through the 5th, called The Future of Astrology. And at this conference, we're going to be giving all these amazing techniques. We have the dream team of Vedic astrologers speaking at this conference, but I wanted Joe to open because I thought a conference, it's all about opening not only our minds to learn, but our hearts. And the reason why I'm having this conference is because we have spent so much time not together, not in person. And it's not easy to put on a conference, but it was so very important to me to bring people together in person, to reconnect, to learn together. But most of all, I thought, wouldn't that be complete my dream team to have Joe Vitale open on the opening night, to open everyone's, not only their minds for inspiration and learning, but their hearts. Because I know, Joe, beyond everything that you're saying, truly, it is your open-heartedness and your love of people and your want to really, really help other people that makes you such an inspiration and makes you such a fluid, incredible, inspirational speaker. Tell me a little bit about how you have, well, I know it's just who you are, but this part of you that opens your heart when you speak. And I know that's how you have the effect on people. Can you tell me a little bit about what you feel about that?
I love your honest, sincere, go for the heart questions. I mean it sincerely. I do, because you're making me reflect. These are not just run-of-the-mill questions that anybody might ask on a radio show or a webinar or something that go deeper. So first of all, I believe my mission on earth is to inspire people. I didn't always know that. I knew that I wanted to be a writer early on. And I remember as a teenager telling my father, I said, I want to make people happy. I want to write things that made them happy. And that was the closest I understood to saying inspiration. I don't know that I knew the word inspiration. I don't know that I felt that was a mission. But at this point in my life, I do feel that I'm here to inspire people. And then whatever the great something, my code word for God or the divine, asked me to do, I'm doing it with the sense that I want this to inspire people. So when I was coming out as a musician, which I started 10 years ago when I was 60, and I came out of nowhere saying, I'm going to do this, I didn't want to just record music. I didn't want to just go in there and fiddle around with a guitar and write some songs. They needed to have a purpose. And so the deeper purpose was I wanted to record music that awoke people, that spiritually nourished them, that actually somehow transformed them. I wanted to inspire them. All of the speaking engagements I do, I may get on stage and they may want me to talk about law of attraction or The Secret or some of the esoteric things I've written about over the years. My guiding principle is, will what I say inspire them? Will they start to go for their dreams when they leave? Many years ago, I got into strongman training, and that's when you bend horseshoes and you bend nails. And I went gonzo. I mean, I was just totally into this. I was obsessed with the superhuman abilities, or what looked like it, to take a horseshoe and in your bare hands, you straighten it out, which was, I got one on the wall back there that I'd done. And when I finally wrote a book about it, I thought, I can't just write about bending horseshoes. That's kind of self-serving. It doesn't really mean anything to people. I had to write about it in a way that would inspire the reader. So I wrote a book called Anything is Possible. And I said, there are 7 lessons I got from bending horseshoes that you can apply to all the dreams you want to have come true. So Joni, all of these are examples of my mind is always thinking of how can I express myself or demonstrate through myself ways to inspire people. And let me say one more thing here, if you don't mind, since I'm on a roll. My latest book is called Unexpected Kindness. And I wrote it for 2 reasons, which demonstrates what we're talking about here. The first reason is Bob Proctor had died. Bob Proctor deeply influenced me way back in 99 or 98. It was a turning point in my life because he really brought me out to an awareness in a public that hadn't paid attention to me. I was being known as the internet marketer, a hypnotic writer, but not a spiritual teacher. Bob Proctor took me into a different land. And he was also a standout in the movie The Secret. He's the grandfatherly like character that's there. And he was working to the end. So when he died, it deeply hit me. It was a jolt. The next morning, I found myself, and this is true inspiration, sitting at the computer, and I just started writing a story about how Bob influenced me. And I thought when I was done, I felt good. It was like a release. I wrote this nice story. But the next morning, I remembered another story of somebody else who had helped me. Then the next morning, I remembered a story of somebody else who had helped me. And suddenly, I was writing a story a day for 30 days about people that I had even forgotten who helped me before I had any fame, before I had any name in any sort of audience. I was struggling. I was broke. I was unknown, and I was unhappy. These people helped me. So I wrote all these stories, and suddenly I realized it's a book. And that's what I called Unexpected Kindness. So the first reason I wrote it was to give back, to acknowledge all these wonderful people, most of which are gone, including Bob Proctor, who's passed on. The second reason I wrote it, though, and this is what ties into your question, I wanted to inspire people to perform unexpected kindness.
Yes.
And unexpected kindness can be a smile to somebody that looks unhappy. It can be a tip to somebody who served you well at a restaurant. It could be giving somebody money. It could give them anything. I mean, it's anything that goes. And here's the thing why I think this is so important, Joni. We live in a time when there's great division. People are fighting over everything, and they've always fought over religion and politics, but they get down to the nitty gritty. Do I get a vaccine or not get a vaccine? Do your kids go to this school or not go to this school? I mean, we're fighting and divided over some silly things.
Right.
And so we really get into the trenches, and it almost feels like a psychological civil war. But there's a solution. And that solution is something we all recognize. And that solution is kindness.
Yes.
Kindness goes beyond politics, beyond religion, beyond all the philosophies, because you know what kindness is. I know what kindness is. There's no hidden agenda most of the time when you do a kindness. It's opening the door for somebody. That's a kind thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the book was written for those two reasons, to give thanks to the people who did unexpected kindness for me and to inspire people. There it goes back to that inspiration. I feel like I am fulfilling my mission when I inspire people. That's what it comes down to.
Yes, and I want to add to that, because what I feel like, which is true spirituality, is when we're nice to other people, because the law of attraction is what you put out, you get back. And I believe we should treat people the way we want to be treated. Why would we even think of doing anything different than that? That to me is true spirituality, because I know so many people that meditate for hours and they eat the right things. It's all about what they can control, eating and meditating. But then they're not nice to other people. They don't open the door. They don't smile. They don't think of others. And when we do for others, we feel good.
Right.
It feels so good to do things for other people. And that adds to another thing I want to say about your book. When we are grateful, coming from that, and you've spoke about this for years, that attitude of gratitude, when you put out your gratefulness, guess what happens? You get back in a multitude from the universe. Whenever we're grateful, that is the key to success and happiness. And being kind to other people, as you say, it is such a spiritual act, because everyone is a part of God. Why wouldn't we be respectful and kind? And it makes me feel good to do things for others.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to be an astrologer or go into psychology, because I always loved helping other people. There's nothing more moving, or the best thing that you can hear is when somebody says, "You changed my life." I know you've heard that many times, as well as I. And that is the most empowering thing I think I can hear. And it's true, because when you help others, it always comes back to you. But when you do it with the intention to heal and help, be kind, you better bet your life is going to be beautiful. And yes, you're going to be happy.
Right. Yes, you'll make a difference and you will feel great in the process. And ultimately, as I point out in my book, the people that were kind to me, they felt good in doing so. And
Cool.
I felt good in receiving it. So it's a win-win. Plus, here's the other thing we don't always talk about when we're kind. There's the domino effect. When I'm kind to somebody who might have been having a rough day, they're suddenly changed and they might be kind to the next person. And if they are, that person might be kind to the next person. And suddenly you have this chain reaction where it literally can evolve and awaken the planet, all because of a kindness. So that's why unexpected kindness, that's why I wrote it.
I think this is so perfect, the timing of this book coming out, because
Right.
really this is what we all need more of today. With this world being so polarized and divided, it's time for us to forget all that. What do we all want anyway? To be happy. So
Right.
why are we creating all these scenarios where we separate, polarize, and we don't come together? It's such a beautiful feeling, because really, I know we've heard this, it's been sung about so many times, but the only thing that really does matter is love, right?
And this also ties back to how we began our conversation, because I was talking about the inner guidance system and I was telling the difference between the thoughts and the ego up here in the mind. When we are divided, we're not coming from our heart. We're not coming from the inner guidance system. We're not coming from spirituality. We're coming from judgment. And the judgment is coming from the ego. It's coming from the mind. It's coming from our past belief systems. So kindness is a way to bypass our blocks, our barriers, our negativity, our programming, so we can drop in to our heart, our spirituality, and allow the guidance system to take us to our next level, to the next joyful place. So this all goes back to kindness. I think
I agree. I've got
we're
to
in.
get your new book. Oh my gosh. Can you tell people how they can get your book? Is there
Sure. Well, first of all, Unexpected Kindness is at Amazon. There's the Kindle version, the paperback version, and a hardcover version. I have a website, unexpectedkindnessbook.com, unexpectedkindnessbook.com. Generally just take you to Amazon. So I would just go to a bookstore or go to Amazon, and if you feel like it, pick it up.
I'm getting it today. I'm serious, because I'm such a believer in all of this, because it works. Everything you have really shared with us today, Joe, is everything that works. And like I said, I put you on the spot. Put it all in a nutshell. What are we supposed to learn today to be happy? You did
Right.
it. You did it. I think so.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to share with us before we
Well,
close?
this is self-serving, but I think it's important, and it's an act of unexpected kindness on my part. I'm doing a weekly online television show that's called Zero Limits Living. And Zero Limits Living is my exploration of the question, do we have any limits? And I've been interviewing authors, teachers, speakers, psychologists. I mean, anybody that personally interests me and fascinates me, and we should get you there too, Joni. And then I want to deep dive into their story, what they're doing, how it applies to all of us. How can we use what they're teaching so that anybody watching or listening to the show can immediately benefit from them? But I always go to the question, do we have any limits? And so far, the only answer I've gotten is that we have one limit, and that's our mind. Otherwise, anything goes. And I think that's really the message here is, how would you live your life if you had zero limits? How would you live your life if you believed anything is possible? How would you live your life if you came more from your heart than your head? How would you live your life if you started to realize that, maybe it's never been done before, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. So why not just try? How would you live your life? What would you do, and what would you do today?
Wow. And that would change everything, really.
It would. It would. It would open us up instead of waking up in the morning and going, well, I'm going to go get my coffee, my shower, and then go to work. We'd wake up in the morning and go, what do I want to create today? What is the great something urging me to do? Is today the day I open my bakery or begin my novel or write my screenplay or begin my travels around the world? I don't know. It's going to be different for each person. But tuning in will bring a sense of excitement, curiosity, maybe an adrenaline rush. It'll bring on a spiritually aware and alert way of life. It's available to all of us.
I agree. And let me just say this one more time. Your life is a prime example of that. You've done it. So you are such a good role model to follow because really you live with zero limits. You did everything that you, well, as a kid, you never thought possible.
That's
But
true.
you changed your mind and you live with the fact that there's zero limits. You've done it all. Is there anything else you want to accomplish?
Yes, I was just going to say, I have a list. I got my own little bucket list. I have my own little to-do list. I got like 15 more books I want to write.
All
Some
right.
of them are actually even written. I'm waiting for the world to be ready for another book because they come out with them too fast for a lot of people. And my whole trilogy, we haven't had a chance to talk about Ho'oponopono, but I wrote Zero Limits, which brought that to the world. Then 10 years later, I wrote At Zero. And then a few years later, I wrote The Fifth Phrase. And now I have a book coming out that'll come out next year called Zero Limits Living, which ties into my TV show. Also, I didn't even tell you, I have a movie that's in production right now. It's called Zero Limits. I have a brand going on here. The movie's in production right now. And in fact, we're still looking for people to be in it on a sponsorship level. So I want to be transparent. But if anybody's interested, go to Zero Limits Movie, ZeroLimitsMovie.com. And the TV show I'm doing online is ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com.
Okay. Wow. Well, you've got a lot still to do here.
I do. I've got things to do.
And it's all about inspiring us all, isn't it?
Well, it is. That's the whole point, is that I want to live an inspired life so that the fire of that life catches you on fire. It ignites you so that you go for what it is that you want to do in your heart. That's what it's all about. Yes, I'm having a great time following my passion, but my passion is designed to awaken your passion so you can go and lead your awakened mission, so to speak.
I love that because, you know, what you're doing is what I love to do more than anything. Empower people.
Right.
Empower people to be everything that they were set out to be. So through astrology and their charts, I look at, this is your gift.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? Develop it, do it, be it. That's what you do just as well. And, you know, empowerment it empowers us all to empower each other. And that's what you do the best. You know, there's a quote I read just this week that sticks with me that I absolutely love. And I know you've heard it before, but you're reminding me of this by what you do. And it is, we didn't come here to change the world. We came here to love the world. And I believe that when we come to a place where we love everything on this planet, that is where we will experience bliss. And that is where we can actually transcend this world. But people cannot transcend this world when they're meditating, when they're praying, because they hate the world and they want to get out. You know, like I want to, what is it where you just transmute and you don't go through the dying process? Not transcendence, but you know what I mean, where people just, they want to leave the world so bad because they don't love it. But I believe when we learn to love everything on this planet, that is when everything changes. And that is where the gratitude and the love, our hearts open. You're the epitome of that, Joe. I really do believe that. And thank you. Thank you for always being my friend, because you have been.
I cherish you. I cherish our friendship. I cherish the readings you do for me, the support. That's why when you ask me to speak at your event, I don't need the details outside of a date. I just say yes, because it's you.
Yeah.
But I have to say something here, if you don't mind, because you mentioned something so wise. You say these things that are so wise and so insightful that people may not grasp it. They may not even have heard it. And that was the statement about so many people don't like it here and they want to leave. I've heard the same thing. They don't like their bodies. They don't like where they're at. They don't like the world and how it's evolving and what's going on. And of course, they're paying attention to mainstream news, which just kind of rubs it in their face. And they want to leave, whether that is leaving into a mountaintop or leaving,
Right.
transcending and leaving the planet.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can't leave. You're not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
The planet is a growth-oriented planet. It is designed to awaken you. It is designed to give you the experiences you have right now, because as you grow through them, and I said grow through them, as you grow through them, you have shifts in your body and mind makeup. You shift your thinking, you shift what you think is possible. You grow as a result of going through it. You become stronger, you become more aware, you become more alert, you become more spiritual. You get to go through all of this as a kind of challenging game. It doesn't feel like it because we wrap ourselves into survival. And we just say, oh, I hate it here, which is like a little kid stomping their feet saying, I don't like this. Take this away from me. Well, we need to grow up and we need to grow through these things. And as I'm saying all this, don't think I'm some sort of spiritual teacher who's oblivious. Going through a divorce brought me through my knees. Losing my parents, terrifying and upsetting and grieving. Losing my best friend, having a family member shoot himself, attempted suicide, going through the pandemic. I have to go through this stuff too. But when you go through it with the awareness that this is a growth experience, and when you come on the other side of it, you will be far more empowered, far stronger. You're not allowed to leave.
Mm-hmm.
You are here until you get the lesson, or you more or less what I'll call graduate. And then at that point, you get to play here for a while, but then the universe kind of says, come on back. You got it. Come on back to us. So I just want, putting down, putting down the life experience is really rejecting the greatest gift of all time.
Right.
When somebody says, I don't like it here, or I don't like my body, I've heard meat bags and all that kind of stuff. It is so mind-blowing that they are rejecting a gift that cannot be replaced or repeated. It is your life. It is your gift. It is your body. It is your gift. When we shift that mind to appreciation and gratitude, oh my God, the life experience becomes orgasmic and benevolent and abundant and surprising and miraculous.
It's true. I'm with you totally 100%. I feel it. I know it. It's true. Yeah. So
well, I can talk to you forever, but I know you have to go feed the dog.
I know we can have these conversations. I hope everyone out there has got something out of this. I know I have. And first of all, it's the remembrance of what's important and how to stay on track spiritually and how to open our minds and get all that clutter out and get back on track to find our purpose, our spiritual truth, and to most of all, be happy and love the world and love everyone and everything in it. That's what we're here for. And I know all the great gurus and saints, they all say the same thing. This is a place where we're here to grow. Yeah. And it's never been easy. Sure, I've gone through all of the hardship as well. Well, if you're going to come up to the age that both you and I are, then you've gone through, your parents' deaths and, people around you, friends. It's heartbreaking, but it is a process of growth. And the one thing that I always remember is we never truly die. So that always is a remembrance where it helps us get through these difficult times. But more than anything, the joy, the happiness of loving the world and gratitude is what's going to keep us on track through all the hardship and learn and have the growth that these experiences will bring us. And this changes us, it changes our consciousness, and it does reflect and help others in the world. And that's what we're here for. So, any
Beautiful.
closing thought?
Plenty of them. I just want to say I'm grateful for you, Joni. Thank you for the invitation to do this. Thank you for the invitation to speak at your event. You are a longtime friend, longtime spiritual guide, spiritual teacher. I love you. I am grateful for you. And thank you for what you're doing for everybody, including me.
You are so welcome. And the feeling is mutual. As you give, I give back. It's a mutual exchange of love and appreciation. So thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. And thank you everyone out there for watching. Namaste.